Hello and welcome back to the podcast. We are on our final episode of season 2. And to finish this season off, we thought what better way than to recap the top 7 shadiest moments of season 2. Now, if you're wondering, why top 7? Good question. We also are. Because honestly, episode 27, to stop things, I'm not a big fan of odd numbers. So it feels more even if we pick an odd number for these top shady stories. So if that made sense for you, I feel you. That it makes sense in my head. So let's get into, and these are in no particular order.
No, we don't have a favorite.
But if we did,
It could be the first one, but we're not saying that.
but it could be.
Yeah.
And so we're going to start off strong. And hopefully you remember a lot of these moments and you can reflect back with us, starting with our Mexico trip. Now, we did a whole episode dedicated to this trip because it was that shady.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go through a few of those things that happened. We started off right off the bat from
Mm-hmm.
day one when we got to Mexico. We stepped one toe into that water and all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
First of all, a random woman punched someone that was at the wedding with us in the face.
Yep. Straight in the face. Skin to skin contact. I didn't skin to mic contact. It was nuts. It was crazy. You would think
it was all over a pool float, if you remember too.
Just a little floaty. Pun not intended. And
we need to patent that.
Yeah. No one take that from us.
And also right after that, following that, those people evacuated. So we were like, all right, we're good. We're safe.
Everything's fine. We're going to get a drink.
Start this vacation right.
Yeah, let's have a good time.
Let's try again. Next thing you know, we're evacuating because there's vomit in the pool.
Yep. We jumped over a barrier in the pool. There was a barrier that I leaped over and swam as fast as possible.
There was no other option.
There was no other way. There was no other options. There were options. I could have swam around said barrier, but that just wouldn't have been dramatic. Quickly. We had to think on our feet, and we did what we had to do.
And another thing followed that pretty quickly because a lady started throwing our things off the chair
for no reason. Pool. For no reason other than...
It was kind of unprovoked.
It was super unprovoked. She just wanted a reason... What?
A fight.
Yeah, she wanted to start a fight. And I stand by how I acted and how I handled myself. Because you know what? I was fazed, but I deserved...
You were provoked.
I deserved to be upset because I was provoked.
If you don't recall Brittany's reaction, go back and watch that episode. It was a good episode.
I'm still not over it.
I think the final cherry on top of what really made this one of the top 7 shadiest moments was the bug that left me out of my room.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean genuinely. This bug laughed at me in the dark. I had no clue where it was. Never found it, by the way. But it made me physically pack my bags with Evan and move in the middle of the night. Yeah. And it doesn't get shadier than that, honestly. This bug was top. I would put this bug in particular at the number 1 spot.
The shadiest person of the season. I mean, he quite literally said, "Get the fuck out."
And I did.
And you did. You listened. You had...
Disrespectfully, I was not happy about it.
Yeah. You had nothing to do, but just had to comply.
I had no choice.
And
that really does put the cherry on top of that trip.
That trip, I mean, it was a great trip. Fond memories of our time in Mexico. However, a lot of shadiness.
Which brings us to another trip we took that is probably on one of the top shadiest moments because we had our Lollapalooza episode where we had guests on and they shared arguably some of the shadiest moments of the season as well. Starting with, if you remember, Swaco talking about how he stole the golf cart from his school, I believe it was in high school, and crashed it and never got caught because they didn't have cameras at the school.
I mean, bold of him to share such a story that is so niche.
Could easily
Easily,
incriminate him.
yeah, it could. I think he's okay. I feel as if the administration of his school might not be listening, but in the rare case that they are, let's just let him off the hook.
I think you have to at that
yeah,
point.
let's just laugh. Let's all giggle about it and move forward with our lives.
Well, hopefully he's taking better care of the Cybertruck he just got.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it's from Elon Musk is making these Cybertrucks, but Swaco just actually posted that he was one of the first people to get this truck. And inside of it, you can actually, and I don't know if it was made for artists or something, but you can actually make music inside of this truck.
I mean, that's sick.
It has a app or whatever that you can
On the
literally
screen.
make the music, and there's microphones in the car so you can record your voice and put it onto the music.
I mean, talk about innovative.
That's
really cool. Where was that when carpool karaoke was happening?
that was genius.
I know.
And it's too bad we didn't
Mhm.
think of it.
It really is.
It's
just a shame.
Well, hopefully Swaco is not crashing this like he did the golf cart.
Mm-hmm.
Another shady thing shared in the same episode from an artist that came on was when Young Gravy really pleaded deep within the soul of the camera and guests and audience alike that he wanted to date Sofia Vergara.
Yes.
And he recently, there's updates with this too, tagged her. He had a post of him with a woman's pregnant belly.
He doubled down.
And he tagged her as the pregnant belly.
What is the saying?
Double down?
He doubled down on.
You said it right.
Did I?
Yeah.
That's the saying. I was questioning myself there for a second. He just wants to shoot a shot.
He was literally
wanted his shot to be heard.
insinuating that she was pregnant with this baby, but it makes sense because he has a new song coming out with Jesse McCartney called Make a Baby, and it's actually out today if you're listening to this on Friday. So I want to listen to it.
I do too.
Mainly because like I haven't heard Jesse McCartney in so long.
Really? I mean I kind of listened to some of his songs.
Like I know some of the old stuff, but like I didn't really realize he was still making music, and now I'm like,
definitely the old stuff
I need to
is what I
go listen to this.
Absolutely. I mean, it's almost summer, or at least almost spring. Nice out. A good old Young Gravy bop. Who doesn't love a Young Gravy bop? I know I, for one, am all about the bops that he provides. And this could take the cake as the best
We'll
bop.
find out. We'll have to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of artists and shade from this season, another big thing that happened was SpongeBob and Ariana Grande came out that they were dating.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually just did an interview this week talking about this exact drama that was occurring, which it's her first time since we brought this up at the beginning of the season, I feel, really talking about this or alluding to it at all. And her consensus was basically the tabloid spun a narrative to make her look bad, and you know how tabloids are, kind of thing.
I think that there was a lot of facts reported and maybe skewed, and maybe some non-truths were shared.
I definitely think people shared their opinions.
Yes, opinions were shared.
Let's just do the facts.
And the facts are SpongeBob had a wife that he just had a baby with. And now SpongeBob is divorced from said wife. Doesn't have a wife. And he's with Ariana Grande. So I'm not trying to draw conclusions. I am not. Those are the facts. I'm not saying what my opinion is here. Maybe I don't even have an opinion. I mean, I can't really watch SpongeBob in peace anymore, but to say I have an opinion would be a stretch.
The way that this man has completely lost his identity and is, in fact, just SpongeBob in
SpongeBob.
people's minds
I
is
mean,
actually crazy.
Yeah.
But
I don't see a problem with it.
The consensus, though, overall, even after this interview, and I think along the entire since this came out till now, the consensus is people are not buying it. So that's the consensus, and that brings us to something else that people aren't buying. And one of the shadiest things from this season was the MGM cyber attacks. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but briefly a little recap. MGM was put under attack from their technology. They had no access to their technology. People couldn't check into the hotels. Their casinos were down. And they had to pay a ransom in order to get control of their technology back. And it kind of leads us to not a cyber attack, but allegedly could have been. People are definitely
we don't really
speculating
know what happened.
That just happened. So this has been going on all season up until now. at&t just went out this past week,
and we have no answers. We don't some know answers of what did they say? They were expanding their
network, and that was supposedly the reason that this happened, but people are not buying that.
I mean, they're always expanding. That's all you see on the commercials. We're expanding more towers, more network, more cellular data.
And I mean, what do they think? That's been happening since cell phones were invented.
Yeah.
All they've done is expand their networks.
So why the problem now?
Right. So people are not buying that. And especially, I think, more so now because that movie that came out on Netflix literally warned about this exact scenario,
and
that
we didn't listen.
Technology coming under attack would be like the easiest thing to do from an outside source. And it's happened this entire season, but now it's directly affecting not just businesses, but individuals. So maybe now people are going to start believing it.
I mean, all I've got to say is if we're buying anything, we should be buying maps, because that was my takeaway from the situation, that I need to prepare myself. I need to stay vigilant and stay ready and have a map in my car at all times.
You can never be too careful.
No, you really can't.
When this occurred, people were literally getting lost because they had no access to their GPS.
I saw a girl on TikTok. She was leaving Disneyland late at night, had no service, no connection to Wi-Fi. She didn't know where she was going. She went through a drive-thru and had to beg to use their phone. I don't even think they let her use their phone. Don't know how she made it home. I believe she's safe because she did post the TikTok. So, I mean, interesting that in crisis, she felt the first
solution was to
film it.
A video. That's just,
that's life these days.
It truly is.
I mean, I was stuck in an elevator once, and I did start filming parts of it. I don't know. But we had been in there for a little while. We were in there for like over an hour, so a video or two. I just felt like I needed proof to show the front desk when
what occurred.
What occurred.
I don't blame you. But I think all this goes to just say that we have been warning about technology season 1, season 2, and here we are, and we're talking about it still, because another thing that was pretty shady that just happened, we've been talking about AI. We've talked about it the last 2 seasons. A new AI just came out called Sora, which takes text and turns it into video. And we talked about before, there was an AI that took text and made it into pictures, but this is taking it into video. So much so that Tyler Perry just announced this week he's halting the production of his $800 million expansion in Atlanta, where he was going to be making studios and more things to record movies. And he's halting it now because of this mind-blowing technology. And he said, basically, why do we need sets? I can just make a movie from my computer.
I mean, I don't think SAG-AFTRA is going to be happy about this.
And they'll have to take it up with him because I think this is going to be a real issue, which all along we've been saying and warning about, but especially now, because again, like that, you don't need actors, you don't need a set, you don't need a sound guy, you don't need anything. This technology will do it all for you. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Time will tell. We're living in it.
Again, let's see what happens. But speaking of mind-blowing things, we had that on our podcast this season when we did our tarot readings.
That was
And
the
that
coolest
was,
thing.
yeah, one of our favorite, I think, episodes. Shout out to Brandy. But we did our tarot readings. And honestly, I just wanted to bring this back up as really not a shady thing, but a spooky thing, because we're going to keep that going.
Right.
And next
Right.
season, we shall have more spooky things.
Come October, we are no longer just a little shady. We are just a little spooky.
Period.
And we plan to stick with that.
Exactly. And a little fun fact, Tyler, the medium, saw Brandy's post that she came on and liked it. So maybe, just maybe, we could get him.
A little bit of luck and a lot of manifesting. Let's
And
all
some
just
spiritual connection.
Yes, some spiritual connection. Let's all think about it. Let's all visualize it, manifest that he comes to the podcast in season 3, and we have the most insane readings of all time.
Have you watched his show on Netflix?
I haven't, but
you thought our readings with Brandy were intense? I cry every time I watch his show on Netflix.
we need that. We need that energy here.
Great.
Immediately.
Well, speaking of spiritual connections, another shady thing that happened this past season on the podcast, a lot of animal talk, per usual, but because I was constantly running into and having to save distressed animals and get involved in situations. But it leads to a positive thing that's going on right now, and that is Miss Peaches.
The icon.
Dave Portnoy's new adopted dog, the icon, taking over the internet. And this is really what it's all about. Miss Peaches raised $277,000 for Lifeline Animal Hospital by selling sweatshirts and shirts with her face on it.
And I mean, who wouldn't want to buy a sweatshirt with Miss Peaches on it? I mean, there are very few people in this world that I would run through a wall for. One of them being Mr. Dan Campbell. I love him. I respect him. I would run through a wall for him.
We've heard that before.
And I will say it again. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Dan Campbell is legendary. And arguably so is Miss Peaches. I also would run through said wall for Miss Peaches.
I'm so glad to hear this, because when I first saw this video, I'm so deeply embedded in animal talk. I thought this was going to be niche.
Yes.
I thought this was going to be something I knew a lot about.
Yeah.
But
a small corner of TikTok where you felt your community.
Yes.
You were all about Miss Peaches, but not a known thing to the general public.
Exactly. And I thought that's what this is going to be, and it's not, and I'm so glad it's not, because now you can understand, and I hope you just keep getting more and more animals.
I hope so too. However,
I just made you watch one right before we started filming.
You did, about cows being set free.
So listen, if you don't know about this story, 6 cows broke free from a slaughterhouse, got away, ran around the town.
They had a leader.
And what was it, Mr. Chico?
Mr. Chico
was the leader of the pack, and they got away from the slaughterhouse. They ended up getting rounded back up by the end of the day and brought back. But the community heard about it. They raised money to get them out of it. So the slaughterhouse agreed, we will let the cows go if a rescue comes and takes them for the money that was raised to set them free. Nobody showed up. So then a few days later, they ended up getting saved. And Brittany was laughing the entire time.
I was, because I couldn't help but compare, not that last half of the story of being saved and freed with money, but the first half of, these cows really like hitting the town, crashing through walls, running rogue, and then being rounded up and taken back
and their
as a
leader
group. Was fearlessly running about and running amok. Really reminded me of how our friends act
in society
and when we're let loose. If you were ever curious about how our friends behave, I recommend watching said video and looking at the cows run amok and run wild along highways, through walls.
They do through the walls, but not highways.
We've lost a wall or two to our friends.
And that just really reminded you
our friends are okay.
That reminded you of this. That's when I showed you this and was tearing up. You thought
I was giggling.
Mr. Chico looks like our friend.
He does resemble some of
It's
them.
wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting.
I would, I think it's a great parallel. Truly.
Well, speaking of people that Brittany would run through a wall for,
I would.
as
would
Mr.
Chico.
did, we need to talk about the Lions.
How could we not?
And this really was a huge part of our season. It really did turn us into a sports podcast.
It solidified that we should now move the podcast into the sports category. And that's just it. That's just the facts.
Couldn't agree more. And it expanded our horizons. We talked about multiple other sports.
Mm-hmm.
And we will be back talking about this again when the Lions ultimately are in the Super Bowl next season.
And we said it last year, but we'll say it again. 2025 is the year that the Lions win the Super Bowl.
100%.
Hard stop. Period. They're going to do it. They had an amazing season. Did it end in a little bit of heartbreak? Was I depressed? Was I in tears after the game? Yes, you took it much better than I did. I cried after the game, and I thought about it for a long time. I didn't talk about it for a long time, but I'm ready to talk about it now. And we're a good team. I think we would have won the Super Bowl if we were in the Super Bowl this year.
And we'll be back to discuss this in depth and length next season.
Mm-hmm.
And we're excited to share the experience with you guys and you all rooting for the Lions as well.
Because we're America's team.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But arguably that was, we said we weren't going to rank them, this and that. Them not getting to the Super Bowl was arguably one of the most shady things.
It was shady as fuck. It was shady. I don't agree with it. I don't accept it. I'm not proud of it, but I am proud of the Lions. They did amazing, and I can't wait to see the energy that they bring to this upcoming season. And we have the draft coming up too.
I was going to say, as we can't wait to see their energy for next season.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is going to parallel theirs for this podcast. Our energy, we're coming back. We're going to do...
We're back. We're better.
Exactly. Back and better than ever for next season. And we're going to continue that energy. And to end this last episode of the season, we're sharing all these shady things that occurred. We have to end it with these shady stories. They're pretty good.
They are.
So let's start with shady story number 1. I have a friend of a friend who I hang out with in groups often. She has really bad memory loss, but everyone still loves and supports her. I feel sorry for her, but she can be really rude and acts like she deserves special treatment. I'm expected to buy her gifts for holidays, and I'm cool with buying her gifts for Christmas and her birthday, but she always has a bad attitude about them. There was one time I got her a necklace and she actually liked it, but I knew that next time she would probably hate whatever I got. So when I saw the same necklace in her bathroom cabinet while I was at her house with friends, I decided to take it and give it to her again. She was happy about it and didn't remember that I had given it to her before. I kept doing this trick for a while until one of her friends figured it out and told everyone. I got away with it for a long time, but people were mad at me for tricking her so bad like that.
I mean, but was she wrong?
I will say this. If this was bringing her joy
and happiness,
there is no harm done.
No harm, no foul.
And if the other friends didn't tell her, she would have never known.
And honestly, I think it was rude for that friend to tell on her because that probably just upset the friend that was getting the gifts. Right. When she could have just continued to live a happy life and get this necklace that brought her joy. And to steal someone's joy, shame on that friend for telling on you. Really shame on that.
I kind of think it's like a little shady, but it's also like you're bringing this person joy. And if they weren't going to like the next gifts, they probably forgot they even had that. They're never going to wear. Now they're going to use it.
You were saving money and preserving resources. Like, that is sustainability. And who can argue with sustainability?
That's a fact.
Not me. Truly not me. So kudos to you. Keep doing you. Shady story number 2. I've been friends with my boyfriend for about 2 years, but recently got together about 4 months ago. Before that, he was in a semi-serious relationship with a girl that he met at school for about 7 months. He was nice and all, but honestly, I knew him and I were endgame, and it was just a matter of time. I never expected him to meet anyone because it was always me and him. There was a time when they hit a rough patch, and he was constantly asking me for advice, and I was trying to be supportive, but it was hard to hide my real feelings. I would always try to compare how easy our relationship was compared to his and hers, so that it would click in his head that me and him are meant to be. He really liked her though, and that killed me. So one night, in a drunk attempt, I made a fake Tinder account with his girlfriend's information and made sure to set my location in all my settings to match with the people in our area. Then purposefully swiped whenever his friends would pop up. Eventually, one of his friends let him know about her Tinder account while they were dating, and again, he came to me for advice. Although I felt terrible about how much it was affecting him, I did take the opportunity to say that he should end that relationship. And since then, it's early. Wait, what? Um, they broke up. The two broke up. So he just did that, and a few months later, I shot my shot, and we are more than friends now, and it's been the best time since. But I do carry that on my conscience. Love you, girls. Got a little confusing in the end there. However,
I think her advice to him was end it now because it's early in the relationship instead of later.
you're right.
But I get that. I do think there's no chance you wouldn't carry that on your conscience.
I mean, but here's the thing. It's fine. It's dandy. Down the road, when y'all are still in a relationship and, maybe you've had a couple of beverages, you're laughing, you're giggling, it's all good times, good vibes, and you think to yourself, what's funny? When I made that fake Tinder account and that's how we're together and look at us now.
Like, you can never admit it.
No, it's never going to be a funny little story. It's
Yeah.
going to be oh, the fuck you did what? But that's okay. We all do things in the name of love that we might not be proud of looking back on. And this is one of those things where you don't necessarily have to be proud of it. You did what you had to do. And now you two are happily together. The details of how that happened just don't need to surface.
It's a crazy take. I will say, if a friend did it for her,
Better?
it would have felt better.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you could be like, well, I can't control my friend.
I mean, they can do what they want. They have free will.
So maybe if it does ever come to light, it was a friend that did it.
It wasn't
even
you.
you.
Yeah, maybe you just skew the truth. Because I don't think that's something that we're above right now with where we're at.
Like, the lie right now is big, but we could turn
make it
into a
smaller.
white lie. It could turn into a little just detail. But, oh, my friend made it. And that's less of a big deal.
Yeah. And hey, maybe even,
we're encouraging the worst.
You didn't know that they made this fake profile until later. You found when he brought this information.
Are you making a lie for her?
I'm helping a girl out. When he came to you, you were hurt that she would have a Tinder. And you know what happened? One of your best friends, something that I would hope my best friend would do for me if it was needed,
confirms that your story.
Yeah.
And says, yeah, I made it. Mm-hmm. My bad.
I made it. Me. She didn't know. But I saw how bad she was hurting. And I just knew I had to push things forward.
But we also don't encourage that. But if it happens.
I mean, I don't not encourage it. Okay. We did just make that up.
No, you're doubling down.
And I am doubling down.
Okay.
I just think we give good advice sometimes, and this is one of those times.
Yes, we are.
But you could just leave it be and just say nothing. But I mean, what's the fun in that?
Happily ever after. But that's just
who's to say? There are no promises.
All right. Shady story number 3. I work at a law firm in the accounting department with my friend. Today, my friend and I were talking to one of our top attorneys about animals and childhood trauma. I have no clue how we got on that topic. My friend tells us how she's scared of emus, and it made me think of a bird that I'm scared of, so I told them the story about it. When I was little, I lived on a dead-end road, and I never really went to the end of the road until I was around 8 or so. I took my cute little pink Barbie bike on a ride down the road, and halfway down, right before I would normally turn back, my neighbor's dog comes running down the driveway into the road. The dog is chasing after me and barking, so I ride my bike all the way to the end of the road, where I finally find out what is at the end of the road: a peacock farm. I also found out that peacocks are not friendly that day. I had to turn around on my bike and pedal as fast as humanly possible, because now not only was the dog chasing me, but about 8 peacocks were chasing me too. So I start pedaling, and when I got about halfway back down the road, the dog catches up to me and pushes me off my bike. Now I'm on the ground looking up and see a giant dog and 8 peacocks getting closer, and I got up and ran home. I had just finished telling my friend and this attorney this part of the story when I continue on and try to tell them that I cried and screamed on the way to tell my grandma, but instead I said I creamed all the way to my grandma. The attorney had a look of horror, my friend laughed, and I kind of did both. I very quickly corrected myself, but I felt very embarrassed to say the least. That's what I get for not doing my work.
I mean, what do you think it was like to grow up not knowing what kind of danger lurked at the end of your road?
I would have never, we would have thought it would be a good idea to go find out.
Yes.
A long time ago.
Right. It would have been found out well before the age of 8 what existed at
Correct.
the end of that road.
I will say the main takeaway from this story to me, and we've talked about this before, and I will say this every season, every episode if I need to.
Every day if you have to.
These kind of birds, along with alligators, along with a lot of animals, are dinosaurs, in fact, and I don't see why we're okay with it. An emu, specifically an emu, is a dinosaur. You cannot tell me otherwise, and it's here right now.
And no one sees problem with that.
And peacocks, too. And they've always bothered
alligators. Me. Alligators have always bothered me.
Alligators, too, but we don't really have to deal with those here. Peacocks, I vividly remember at the zoo, they just let the peacocks walk around.
They have free range and no rules. Not a single fucking rule.
Of all the animals, they can do whatever they want.
A peacock?
I don't get it. Yeah.
A peacock.
I want to see a peacock.
No,
okay,
this is serious, though, because there is a peacock that has found its way near my parents' house.
Of course it did, because they can go wherever they want. They own this world.
And how did it get there?
Zoo.
Did it escape the zoo? Did they pull a Madagascar? Or
it doesn't need to escape. It could do whatever it wants.
This is true. If it were to leave the zoo, no repercussions.
I just want to know, what are they up to?
They're up to trouble because one did corner me and try to charge at me once. I swear.
Well, it was probably. Did you write this story in?
I didn't. I did not grow up with the trauma of a peacock farm that I didn't know existed lingering at the end of my street. But if I did, I just don't know.
I just want you to be aware of this.
Oh, let's learn some facts that scare the shit out of us.
Peacocks eat. These ones you think, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Fruit, berries, grains.
Of course.
Small mammals.
Good.
Reptiles.
Good.
Snakes and insects. I'm just not okay with how casually small mammals is in there. Like, that's a squirrel. That is a squirrel. That is a mouse. I don't like that. And honestly, I don't want to look at this thing right now. It's looking me in the eyes. I'm on
the
Google.
peacock?
Yeah, I'm on
I don't
Google.
know. Birds just freak me out in general because, I mean, I would be more scared of the peacocks than the dog. The dog,
for sure.
You can reason with. The dog, has a conscience. The bird,
no conscious.
No conscious, no life. It's like when your friends are blackout and there's
no
lights
life
on, no one's home. That's what a peacock is like.
Because
they have no chill and no rules either. and your blackout friends, no,
No
chill,
chill,
no
no
rules.
Yeah, I can't argue with that reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
I personally have never encountered a peacock, but I've seen enough videos of emus specifically to know
Yeah, you're
that
well versed in this.
if you fuck around, you will find out.
Yeah, no.
And I'm not interested in that. And I'm glad you made it home safely.
A true miracle.
Truly.
Because it could have been bad. I'm just telling you straight. It could have been bad.
Oh, gosh. Well, I feel like that was a good way to end this final episode of the season, recapping the shadiest things that happened and arguably some of the most shady stories written in. Keep writing them in. We will be back next season. We'll be reading all the shady stories. We will have all our own, again, shady stories to share. And we will see you guys in the next season.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.